Hello, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about songwriting, specifically two important aspects. One, how I come up with lyrics, and also how I pick a direction for a song and kind of keep it going down that direction as I write the song. Before I dive into that specifically, though, I want to ask and answer a question that often comes up when you go online to look up information on songwriting, and that is, who are we writing music for? Some people will say, write only the music that you want to write, and that means something to you. Others will say, you need to write it for an audience. My answer to that question is kind of both. It's I write music that I want to write that means something to me and that I think I can communicate well. But I also keep in mind the audience and the information. Say I'm telling a story through a song. I'm always keeping them in mind and asking, what information do they need to get from me to understand the song and for it to mean something to them. So yeah, I always keep my audience in mind, what they're likely to need from me as a writer to get something out of the song, no matter what it is. If I'm telling a story, if I'm trying to get some kind of point across, yeah, that way you're not leaving them out, but you're also writing what you want to write. So the first thing that I do when I write a song is I either pick a title or pick a mood or a direction I want the song to go into. One of those two things will typically lead it, and the other one will reinforce it. So there's a lot of songs that I'll just have a phrase that kind of is the main focus of the song. And then under that, there's a subtext of a mood, whether it's upbeat or kind of down. Typically, I try to write songs if they're kind of more bluesy for complaining about life songs. I try to have a positive ending to the song. I have an upward trajectory on most of that stuff. So there's several songs I've written where the phrase is some type of difficulty, but then there's kind of an upward trajectory as I finish the song. There's other songs where I'll start with a mood and then back into the title from there, and the mood will kind of guide it. So an example of that is a song I wrote called Dead Peter's Gold, and the basic plot of that song was just kind of working long hours or working at something just so you can come home and crash on the couch, and wanting more to life than that. Even if I was working hard and tired, I didn't just want to blow off when I came home or had free time or whatnot. So that was the trajectory of the song, and then I backed into that title just picking a random phrase out of I think it was The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and I might change that because it's kind of vague and audiences don't necessarily realize I'm referencing a somewhat obscure plot in that book. But the basic essence of that plot is that there were these two scumbags trying to steal somebody's inheritance, and then Huckleberry Finn stops it, but nobody could rest until the gold was found because the gold was missing. So yeah, it's kind of vague, and I'll probably change that at some point. So the title affected that song a lot less than the general trajectory, which was wanting more to life than just trying to find pointless entertainment and rest in that. So that's one way I have gone about it. There's another song I wrote called Highland Road, and that came about because there's a kind of cross-state trunk line type of road, and I realized that I had lived most of my life at various points along this trunk line road, and so I decided to write a song about just kind of the things that had happened in locations that were on that road. And so that the title of that song led the song much more than considering what the things that happened in my life on that road were, kind of directed the mood. And so the title there really kept that song more on track than the general mood. So I hope that is a good overview of kind of how I pick a direction for a song and stay on that direction, at least lyrically. Often the mood will then inform the chording I use, the melody I use, and the actual musical aspects of it. But actually, typically, even though I play mostly rock that's fairly centered on guitar solos and riffs and that kind of thing, I try to actually keep all of that under the lyrics and the main point of the song, so it all kind of fits together. So I'll come up with kind of a, let's say, a driving riff, but I'll only use that riff if I have a song that really calls for it. And by writing kind of the story of the song first, I think you can also get a fair amount of variation. So let's say you start with kind of a down start, and then the song picks up as thing goes along and end more positive. Maybe you start a song kind of negative, you resolve the tension, and then you end on a positive note and a little bit more driving. I think just the way I do it, anyways, I get a lot more variation in the music itself, like the instrumentation and the melodies, out of following and subordinating those to the lyric writing rather than the other way around. That's not to say I've never written a song based off of a riff or found lyrics that fit a riff really well, but typically I actually do it the other way around and let the lyrics and the focus of the song lead, and then put appropriate riffing and appropriate chord progressions and melodies underneath that. Okay, so that all being said, specifically how I go about writing lyrics themselves. Often I find once you set the tone, once you set the trajectory, you pick off certain ideas that you want to headline the chorus and the verses, it kind of writes itself, and it's a bit like writing a college paper. Like you spontaneously kind of come up with this stuff. Some of it is terrible and you'll throw it out later. So I have kind of a rough draft. I'll strip anything bad and throw it off to the side and search for better stuff to come underneath that maybe is more impactful. I try to get rid of filler at all points. Like I don't like throwaway phrases. So, and I also don't like just common, I won't say common English phrases. But if there's like a cliche way to say something, I will try to throw that off to the side, even if it requires more words to get across what I want to get across. But just because in a lot of rock music, you don't get many words to kind of set the tone of the lyrics, I want every word to count, and often that means that I try to get rid of any kind of cliche or I guess turn of phrase that just doesn't have much impact, if that makes sense. Or maybe to put it this way, maybe there is a kind of well-used phrase that it has some inherent worth or some inherent impact just because of the meaning of the English words, but because we've heard it so many times, it just doesn't probably have the impact that you could get from finding another way to say things and making it more your own. I think that's kind of the end point there is. You're not writing a song that would necessarily be written by anybody else. You're writing your own song. You're using your own way of speaking in trying to put as much meaning to you that the audience will understand through the words that you're choosing. So I definitely try to choose the words carefully. And yeah, I think that's most of what I want to say about that. So I guess I will close out with just a couple of random things. I'm currently working on a song that uses a retro tape machine plugin on my board. So think warped record, kind of a warm, old radio type distortion-y thing going on. It's throwback, it's a bit sentimental. So just kind of keeping with that throwback vibe, I'm trying to use like distinctly older words or like distinctly more proper English, I guess, in a sense, just to kind of reinforce like the sentimental throwback vibe to it. Whether that's super effective or not, I'm not sure, but it definitely adds some interest to the song because I'm using words that don't often get used. All right, so the last thing I would have to say then is there are a lot of exercises you can do to come up with good ideas for songs. One of my favorites is just going through random books, picking an article, header, or anything, just a line, a phrase that would make a good subject, finding a mood and a direction out of that, and just writing to write. It's a craft that has to be developed over time, and I'm not saying this is somebody who has perfected that craft. I'm constantly trying to practice it more and improve on it. So with all that, thank you for watching. I'll probably do another couple videos on chord progressions and how to do chording and melodies and how to come up with riffs and stuff like that. But a lot of that is also just if you're an instrumentalist, stuff that you have your own style already, probably if you're trying to write music. So I think that's going to be maybe a little less helpful, and maybe just a bit more technical too, like just kind of explaining how chord progressions work in some music theory. But a lot of that stuff, you got to find your own voice and how you want to go about that, because that's how you express yourself as an artist and are unique and write things that people actually want to hear because they're unique and because they're from you. So that is it. Thank you for watching.